Welcome to Free Fly Theater. Today, a puppet show about how photos are collected on Astro and geotagged before they're uploaded for stitching. In the first act, we'll cover how photos are collected on Astro, and in the second act, we'll cover how they are geotagged with greater precision. So Act 1, photos are collected on Astro. Here are the characters. On Astro, there is a camera, Sony a7R4, and that camera shoots a number of photos. As each photo is shot, it comes over to Astro via USB. And on Astro, we apply a geotag. After the geotag is applied, the photo is stored on a USB drive that's attached to Astro. And so that process is repeated. While the aircraft is flying around, each of the photos are geotagged and stored on the USB drive. The precision that they're tagged with, there are a few levels possible. Just the usual GPS antenna is used by default, but if RTK is available, then that precision is applied, and a EXIF tag in the photo reflects the level of precision. In the future, it may be possible to get corrections from a CORS network via the LTE modem. It's not available today, but in the future, it's something we're thinking about. So the geotags are applied to the photos with the best precision available, and they're stored on the USB drive. This happens while the aircraft is in flight. When the aircraft lands, a few more files are stored on the USB drive from Astro. One is an observation file. This is a recording of what the GPS receiver has collected during the flight, and it'll be used for correcting the geotags later on. The next thing is a photo manifest. That's a JSON file which contains a list of the photos as well as the exact time that they are captured and some other details. But those are the fundamentals, the name of the photo and the time it was captured. Again, these are needed for corrections later on. Optionally, during the flight, you may have a base station locally near where you are flying, and that will be collecting also an observation file. So when Astro lands, you can remove the USB drive, and on that drive, you'll find the following things. You'll find photos with version 1 geotags, so the best precision available on the aircraft is applied to the photos. You'll find an observation file, and you'll find a photo manifest file. All these things on the USB drive. Your base station may have an observation file. This is optional. And so that's Act 1 complete. In Act 2, the plot thickens. In this act, I'll present a couple visions of the future, a couple paths that can be used to correct the photo geotags. And you'll see the various operations required for each one, and then we can compare them and choose which vision of the future we want. Let's start with my personal favorite. I think it would be fantastic for an operator's perspective if they could collect all the files needed for corrections, upload them to the cloud, and the correction could be performed there. So let me show you what that would look like. We'll start with the USB drive from our Astro. Again, the same contents, photos, observation file, photo manifest. We have an observation file on our ground station, and we need to get that one somehow onto the device we'll use to upload them to the cloud. Currently, if you don't apply any correction, then you'll simply take this USB drive and you'll connect it to the iPad, and these things will be uploaded to the server for stitching. However, if we want to include an observation file, then there are a couple ways we can do it. One way is that we can change apps. We can change to the base station app. And the base station app will allow us to download the observation file from the base station to our iPad or computer. And then we can upload all these files together to the server. And the corrections and stitching and all processing can be performed there. So that's path 1, where we upload everybody to the server and corrections happen there. An advantage of this as you can see, there are very few steps involved, and on the server you can apply not only corrections from a local base station that might have been present during the flight, but also you can apply corrections from the CORS network, base stations that are close to where you've been flying with observations that they recorded there. An alternate path is that we can perform the geotag corrections locally on a device that we have with us while we're flying, or some other device. It doesn't have to be while we're flying, but before we perform the upload to the stitching server. One vision of the way that can go is that we could perform that correction in the AMC app, an app that we're already creating, and we could expand it to include PPK functionality. So the way that would look is that on your iPad you'd be flying, for example, with the Esri app. You would then change, as we did a moment ago, to the base station app. You would use that app to bring over the observation file from your base station. You'd connect the USB drive, and then you would bring all these files together into the AMC app. The AMC app would digest all these files, and it would perform corrections to the photo geotags. It would apply corrected geotags to each photo, going from version 1 to version 2. And then the USB drive would contain all the files you need. It would take photos with new geotags. Theoretically, we'd move the observation file over here so it would live in one directory with all the files from our flight and the photos. So then we could switch back to, for example, the Esri app. The Esri app, we could select all these photos with their geotags, bring them here, and then upload them to the server for stitching. Here's a third version of geotag corrections performed on the iPad. We could bring over the USB drive as before. We can switch to the base station app as before, bringing over our observation file and storing it on the USB drive. Then we could switch to a FreeFly PPK app. That app would process the photos on the USB drive using the observation file and photo manifest. It would apply new geotags to them, like this. Then we would switch back to the Esri app. The photos would be brought into the Esri app and then uploaded to the server for stitching. Version 4 is a path in which the SkyNode, the Astro aircraft with the SkyNode inside, would perform the geotag corrections. And that would mean bringing all these files from the USB drive. These are already connected to the Astro. That's, remember, the source of them. They came from the Astro to the USB drive. We have to also bring the observation file from our ground station onto the Astro. And that's where it gets a little complicated. So one thing we could do is we could, on our iPad, we could connect our USB drive like this. We could switch to the base station app, and that would allow us to download the observation file from our base station, place it onto the USB drive. Then we would move the USB drive back to the Astro, and the processing would be performed on the Astro, so the SkyNode would act on the files on this USB drive. It's not clear to me how the user would be aware of that action. Maybe it would be initiated and monitored through the AMC app. But in any case, the SkyNode would apply geotags, corrected geotags to the images, like so. When the processing is finished, the USB drive would be removed from the Astro, bring it back to the iPad. On the iPad, change to the Esri app. The Esri app, you would select the photos, and the photos would be uploaded to the server.